It's good.
You have taste in a way that's meaningful to software people.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates.
I'm using pens today because
I would recommend.
because last time I made a comment about
it writes
you got shy.
a lot of code for me, and usually it's slightly wrong.
I'm reminded incidentally of Rust.
Rust. This almost makes me happy that I didn't become a supermodel.
Oh.
Cooper and Netties.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about large neural networks. It's really an honor to be here.
Rust.
Data topics.
Welcome to the data.
Welcome to the Datatopics podcast.
Hello and welcome to Datatopics Unplugged, your casual corner of the web where we discuss what's new in data every week, from Slack to networks. Anything goes. We are not live streaming, but you'll be able to find a recording on YouTube, LinkedIn. Actually, not LinkedIn, just YouTube. Check us out there. If you leave a question or comment on the video, we'll try to address it as well. No promises there. Today is the 17th of May. My name is Murilo. I'm going to be hosting you today. I'm together with me, my partner in crime, my sidekick, ? Bart.
Yellow.
And the sound engineer behind the scenes, keep the lights on, Alex.
Hi.
Actually, maybe Alex, while I have you on the spot here, today's a very special day for Alex. No, what's today, Alex?
What is today?
What is today?
It's the end of my internship.
The last day of the internship.
Can we get an applause?
Yes.
An applause for a great internship.
Exactly.
Many thanks to Alex.
Indeed.
For getting us professional.
Indeed. Yeah, I think there was one day that Alex was not here, and I think we were really oh yeah, we need to do this. Oh no, oh yeah, Alex did that too. Oh no, this. So it was a bit all over the place. So very happy that we had you here this whole time. And I couldn't help but noticing that the intro song is
It's slightly tweaked.
Slightly tweaked. So do you want to share anything about the new sound bites there that you added?
There's a soundbite about Cuber and Netties.
Oh.
And there's a soundbite about being happy not becoming a supermodel. But so all these sound bites in the intro, they're always in some way come from interviews or speeches or that have something to do with data or AI. And being happy not to have become a supermodel,
yes,
comes from Conan O'Brien discussing deepfakes.
Okay.
where he is a bit stating like the supermodel career is a bit under pressure now. It's become easy to create fake supermodels.
That is true.
So he was happy that he didn't become one. It's a bit like your life, Murilo.
My life.
Yeah, like at some points, like you were at a crossroads. Like, am I gonna be like AI tech lead or become a supermodel?
Oh yeah,
you chose the left path, right?
Yes, that's true.
And with all the development, it's probably the good one.
Yeah, I was this close to making a big mistake, but it's fine. For the people that I feel like I need to explain this a bit, because I think for you and me that we know the context. This is not true. Bart made a deep fake of me, and he actually spread the news, the rumors within Data Roots that I took a modeling career.
It was a good picture that I generated. People actually bought it, huh?
Do you still have it, actually? I don't know.
I want to see it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can read it.
I'll look it up in the...
Supermodel. We saw this on Twitter. One of the colleagues at Data Roots shared this. And I thought it was pretty funny. It also relates to what we mentioned last time. So for the people that are not watching the video, it's a side-by-side picture. On the left, there's DiCaprio and Gisele Bündchen. And it's a bit weird, like as I'm saying her name, because she's Brazilian, but she has a German last name.
Yeah.
So it's like, should I say if I say with the Brazilian accent, is this okay?
I think you said it correctly. It's just the first name. I would have said
Giselle.
Yeah.
No, but that one I'm most confident because like
Yeah,
Giselle,
exactly.
Giselle Bündchen. So and then it says on the top says dating a model in 2004, right? So then you have the copy and Giselle Bündchen. She is a model or a supermodel, as Bart had in the intro. And on the right side you have what's the name of it? Joaquin guy.
Something like that.
The guy, the actor that played the Joker, and it's a scene of the movie Her, and then it says dating a model in 2024. Pretty close. When actually the first time when I heard the supermodel on the intro, I actually thought of like a super AI model, like a open AI ChatGPT kind of model. So it made me giggle. So hopefully it made someone giggle at home there as well. And
we have for the listeners, Murilo is opening his own deep fake about him as a supermodel.
yes,
If he would have chosen the right path.
the right path. Well, now right is correct. Right?
No, you took the left path to become a AI tech lead.
Yes.
If you would have chosen the right path.
Shoot the stab. There we go. This is Bart's doing. This. If you're wondering what Bart and I we talk about,
we'll add a link to the show notes. This picture.
And and it's like, I thought it was pretty obvious that it was a fake, and then I even put here, you see the comments, like I put, when you order Robert Pattinson a Wish, that was actually my
That's a good, it's a very good remark.
and then, but actually, like afterwards, we had a ski trip at Datatopics, and a lot of people were like, "Oh wow, is it real?" And I was like, "No, it's not real." "Oh, really?" And I had to really explain this. So I thought it was pretty obvious. I'm not modeling material by not even close, right? But quite a lot of people believed you, so I think I need to make sure that I explain it here.
So there is potential.
That's
the conclusion.
I'm not sure. I think it's like when you say something, Bart, people that don't know you that well, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, he's the, founder of Datatopics." It's like he's a serious guy. He won't. Yeah, but that is that. Would you have believed him, Alex, if you saw this?
When was it made?
When was it made? This was made
a month ago, 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
No.
Wow, ouch. Okay.
Whoops.
Yeah, indeed.
What do we have on the agenda, Murilo?
Well, while I just showed the picture that you put on Slack, maybe a good segue is to talk about privacy principle. Slack, I think it's not a blog, but privacy principles, search, learning, and AI. What is this about, Bart?
Yeah, so Slack has a page on basically a subpage on their data management info page on the website, and that is about privacy principles. Privacy principles specifically about search, learning, and artificial intelligence. Why I put it on there, and I'm not 100% sure if it is actually a new page, but there was a bit of chatter on this on Hacker News. Because what they're basically saying, and they're not very specific on what they're doing and how they're doing it, is that they use customer data to build AI models. And that you can also, like, your data will be used for global models. So meaning that models that other Slack workspaces can also benefit from.
Okay.
And it's not an opt-in principle, it's an opt-out principle. And it's not even an opt-out, like you go to settings and you just click opt-out. No, you really need to send an email to feedback@slack.com to opt out of this, which feels a bit weird, right? Like it's they also give some examples on like what type of models, like, so they do channels recommendations, they do search results, autocompletes, emoji suggestions, and like emoji suggestions like feels very like low risk, right? Like, but autocomplete, like what if there is some data leakage and these type of things? Like they state also in the same document, like there is no possibility for data leakage, but well, yeah, there's a lot of trust.
Yeah, they mentioned here that data would not leak across workspaces, but at the same time, Yeah, like you said, like if you
They don't give any transparency on like what type of models are these. Like, are these models that like more, let's say a more traditional machine learning model, like classification model, these type of things, a recommendation model for channels, or are these really like LLMs that they're training to do auto completion, like and like bit based on these models, like there are different risks linked to this as well when it comes to global data leakage. But they're not very transparent about it. So, and it feels a bit weird. Also not 100% sure whether or not this will survive GDPR.
Yeah, I was thinking GDPR or the AI Act, or both.
Both probably, but even GDPR.
But you're saying it will survive GDPR, but GDPR is already there, right?
I'm not 100% sure like how new that this document, to be honest. Like I just
Okay.
saw the chatter on Hacker News today. But it feels weird that you have an opt-out principle instead of an opt-in principle as a customer, given that there is a lot of PII data typically on Slack.
Yeah.
Without any other transparency on what is the type of data that they're actually using, right? Is this actually like private conversation data that they're using, or is this just metadata on channels? Like that's a big difference, of course.
Yeah. No, I see your point, and I also think indeed they're saying AI as a umbrella term almost, right? And I think AI can mean a lot of things, right? Like AI is very general, so it's like search engines, like maybe you can even say it's AI or something like that, right? So yeah. Does this make you want to use Slack less? I know you're a fan of Slack, so maybe that's why I'm also asking.
I'm a fan of Slack-esque communication. You have more of these type of things like Mattermost. There are a few others. Migrating to something else is a whole lot of work, right?
Yeah.
I think this is also like that Slack is doing these things is also a sign of their success. I think what they need to now do is iterate a few times and then create the needed transparency around this.
Yeah.
I think that is. I prefer more transparency versus the whole effort of migrating to something else.
Yeah, indeed. And also, it feels like they're not being very transparent either, right? Which I think it's a bit of a flag.
Well, I think that is why there is a bit of kerfuffle.
Yeah, not only that, but also they make it hard to opt. They make it a bit harder to opt out. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. That doesn't feel.
It raises some flags, right? Raises some flags. More on AI then. While we're talking about AI, maybe for people that are not super familiar, Bart, the differences between what ChatGPT is and just AI. Like if I say ChatGPT, I guess I'm talking about LLMs, right? And AI. How would you describe the differences between the two, or the nuances between the two, for someone that is not in the field?
When it comes to the risk of data leakage, or
or also like data leakage, I think is like because for example, when I was studying AI, they talked about path finding, like what Google Maps does, probably, from path A to path B when you have a heuristic, or like the old school chess systems, right? That's technically AI. But I think when if they use something like that to train a model to build heuristics, whatever, it's very different from machine learning. It's very different as well from LLMs, right? I think the levels of risk and why we're thinking about that is, if there was more transparency, maybe the question wouldn't be so much in our heads.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to give a holistic answer to that, but maybe in the context of Slack, right? Like where they're saying now is the discussion like there's customer data being used for models that will be used globally across workspaces. Like if we we have a bit of a sound issue. Yeah, sorry. So the difference between LLMs and
AI in general, right? Like I guess AI is more what I'm trying to get at more.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit distracted with the sound issues. So if we look at the risk when it comes to using customer data within a Slack workspace with traditional models versus LLM, is that with traditional models, what you do is that you look at basically at historical patterns and see whether these patterns are occurring today, right? Like, for example, if you look at channel recommendations in Slack, like we saw that everybody that joined in the past also joined channel X. So based on that, when a new pattern occurs, like a new joiner, it probably makes sense to recommend channel X to this new joiner.
Yeah.
That's a bit like
And
these traditional machine learning models. Like we recognize a pattern and we see that there's a big potential that this pattern is also at the state of emerging again.
Yeah.
And we quote unquote forecast that. And I think the big difference with LLMs, like which is the underlying technology on with ChatGPT, if we ignore how it's built and the architecture and stuff, like what it basically tries to do is like it learns on text. And what it tries to do is like based on a question or a word or a phrase, it tries to predict the next most likely word.
Yeah.
The quote unquote most correct word that comes next, and it iterates over that until the sentence is complete. And from the moment that you do that based on actual text that was used in your channels or in your private channels, so then you have this risk that from the moment someone asks this model something, that it could be that you use this a lot in your Slack space, and that the model thinks like it's very likely that I need to respond in this way, but that this way actually is something that was very specific to your current Slack space, and that this actually sensitive data.
Yeah.
And I think that is the risk here, that we're trying to understand what is text and what are responses to text versus what are patterns that you can express in numbers.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm also, for example, for the text completion is a good example, right? For example, let's imagine that I'm always asking people to transfer me money on my bank account, and then somehow this data gets through, and then when someone else is typing, hey, can you transfer money too? And then my bank account is there, right? Which is very sensitive. And that would be different from if the actual AI is just trying to see they have all the possible available words in English, and they just see what's the shortest path to the next word, like some heuristic or something like that, which technically is also AI, right? I even seen, like, if you really push it far, I remember I was even in a talk that they said there was a AI powered coffee machine, but the only thing that the coffee machine would do is that the coffee you order the most would be the first one on the list, and they consider that AI. So I feel like AI is a bit more fluffy word, and people
definitely true,
play more with it. And I feel like it's also safer for people to say AI because it's an umbrella term. So for sure, it's gonna be inside there. But I think the actual nitty-gritty is very different, and I think the concerns are very different, and the complexity is very different.
And I think that is also a bit why people feel like there's a lack of transparency when Slack says this, because like, yeah, indeed, like it's become this umbrella term, like it is just some smart heuristic.
Exactly.
And like that indeed goes from a coffee machine to ChatGPT.
Exactly. And talking about ChatGPT, there was some improvements for data analysis, and it's a bit meta, right? Because ChatGPT is a system that is for text, but the content of the text can actually be about data analysis, right? And the ChatGPT or OpenAI actually released that there's some more things. Actually, that was a pretty well documented use case, right, for ChatGPT. Like you can actually send a CSV there and you say, hey, what's the highest paying customer, or hey, what's this, in natural language? And then ChatGPT would actually do a pretty good job at looking at the data and answering with.
Yeah.
So what is this about, Bart? What are the improvements here?
So what OpenAI recently launched May 16th, which was yesterday, and I haven't tried it out yet, which is a bit of a pity. But I think it's already available, and it allows you to basically take this, what you were explaining, like upload a CSV, ask some questions about it, to the next level.
What is the next level?
Where before, what I did with CSVs, for example, I uploaded them to ChatGPT, and I asked it to generate a plot, and it used Python and matplotlib to actually generate plots. Right? what you can do now, how I understand it, again, I haven't tried it yet, is that you can directly connect Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive to give ChatGPT access to your data, and that you can then query this data using natural language. You can say, okay, I point to this file or that data set in my drive, and then interrogate that, and that it also has built-in native visualizations, where before it used matplotlib, and if I understand correctly now, it has like a native charts and graphs.
Yeah, for the people following the video, we actually have the announcement page here, and we show some of the graphs. It looks pretty nice. It looks more polished than matplotlib.
Exactly. It looks more native to a web application. And but I think here, like, we'll test it out and come back with some feedback next time, right?
Indeed.
I think this is like, again, we had a discussion last episode a little bit on like OpenAI putting companies out of business that were building on top of OpenAI, because like every time that they have like a stable foundation, they take the next step. And I think this is again like a good example, like where you saw a lot of these initiatives, a lot of startups, like to use LLMs to, for example, ease building of SQL queries, these type of things, to ease more the citizen data science process to interrogate data, where they now have it more or less built in. And today it's just Google Drive, it's just Microsoft OneDrive. But from here, it's very easy to see, like, it's going to be very easy to immediately connect to a database, for example. Like the step to that becomes very, very low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, you know, but I fully agree. But I also want, like, if I had built a tool like this on top of ChatGPT, I also would always be a bit anxious that, because it does feel like a very good use case, right? And I do feel like with time, OpenAI is getting bigger and more popular. Like it is very natural for them to take this next step. I do remember this alluding a bit to very, very early podcast days when actually was still Tour de Tools. That was, I think, a tool that you covered that did something very similar. No, there was like natural language querying, but I think it was before ChatGPT still even. No.
Yeah, we once had in another podcast the author on.
I think it was actually Brazilian even. That's how I remember.
The CEO was, the company was Swiss, but but putting me on the spot here now to come up with the name of the product.
That's what I do, Bart.
I want to say Viso, but it's not that. But it's indeed like what they do. Like it's like a dashboarding application, but their value proposition is not necessarily the dashboards, but that it's very easy for users to interrogate data using natural language. To not say, oh, I'm going to build this SQL query to understand, like, how were my sales last month? I'm just going to type in what were the sales last month.
Yeah.
And
this was before ChatGPT, no?
I think they started before ChatGPT.
Oh, before the boom of ChatGPT,
exactly,
right?
before it was this big. Yeah.
So
but I think with this, if you would today have your, and probably no one has, like, in a structured manner and up-to-date manner, their data on Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, but I think if you would have, you could already do that today with what they now released. So I think that step to go from Google Drive or OneDrive to actual databases is really like a small step.
Yeah, that one
at this
is
stage.
very, very. I mean, or integrating with other, like Dropbox or whatever, right? Like it feels like it's just a API call. Yeah. Do you feel like now with these things, do you fear for the data analysts of the world, even maybe data scientists? Do you think?
I think that is always a very hard question. Like, there will always be changes. I think even though it's closer to natural, like, there will be evolutions in role descriptions, and I think a lot of these roles will become maybe a slightly less technical and maybe a bit more experts in the business domain, which probably makes sense. Like, from the tools become more easy to use, like your priority becomes business. Right? So there will probably be an evolution there, but I don't think.
I think it could even be that, like the focus of the role changes. But I also feel like for data science or AI or machine learning, I also feel like they expect you to be able to do more. So it's like it's not like the focus shifts, but it spreads. So dashboarding is easier today.
Mhm.
So now we also expect data science to build dashboards. Or doing the data exploration is easy. So now we also expect you to deploy models as well. I feel like we expect more and more for one data scientist or machine learning engineer to cover a broader area. See what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I think that is maybe. I think it depends very much on the context that you're in as well. Like, I think the advances we see with stuff like OpenAI, with Anthropic, like with Perplexity, they are also moving much faster than your typical enterprise environment.
True.
So I think I think that will become true, but I don't think that is the factor true today. I think they're still very much dedicated. Like, these are your tasks. This is how you isolate it. But of course, like, we're very much especially when we talk about LLMs, like, we're going towards an era where managed model becomes the default. Like, you don't build an LLM yourself. So you use a managed model, and it takes different set of skills. And from an engineering point of view, maybe a bit more software engineering skills. And maybe less theoretical skills about how is this model built, what is the architecture of this model, but more than how do you use it for business purposes.
Yeah.
And how do you make sure it's robust for these business purposes? And it takes a bit of a different mindset. And
also
there we will see role evolutions, especially when we talk about LLMs.
I also feel like the time expectation for you to do these things also changes.
Yeah, and I think the difficult thing there is that it looks a bit like magic. Like, ChatGPT is very tangible. I can type something in and I can get, well, since yesterday, like a full report of my sales of last month.
Yeah.
And then if you're a data scientist or a data engineer or data analyst, and then you have to explain, but we need to make sure that we have the correct connections, and we need to make sure that there is good data quality, and then we need to set up these pipelines and need to get the infrastructure in place. And then we're going to have these dashboards, and all of this will cost us at least a number of months.
Yeah.
Then you will have this reaction. But I just queried ChatGPT yesterday, and it gave it to me immediately. Like, and there is this disconnect that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I hear you. I agree. I think it takes some more people. I mean, I think people that are already used to managing teams, like data science teams, understand the whole thing behind the curtains, quote unquote, right? I think the message is more easily adopted. But in data, if I have to explain to my partner this, she's like, what? You have to do all this? This is going to take that much? But it's just there, It's like, it's just here, So fully agree.
But maybe all of that will also become easier.
I mean, I've seen even for even the software part, right? For model deployment, I think it was even before I started working at Dataroots, but I know that there was the ML Monkey thing that was to like keep track of the models and like have some documentation on these things. And today it also evolved a lot, right? Like when I used it, I think once, the ML Monkey thing, like the framework, I guess, and it was a lot more work compared to what we have today, right? So indeed, like it's not just the AI part, it's not just this or that. Everything kind of evolves, everything matures, the community, everyone kind of converges to certain standards, right? Which also make it easier to switch tools and so things tend to be easier. But I think the difference with that is that ChatGPT feels like a bigger step.
Yeah.
And it feels like much more in your face, like you
bigger
said.
And faster.
Bigger and faster. Yeah. And everyone can relate to it, right? Like you said, anyone can go to ChatGPT and be like, oh yeah, I did this. Or like go to data analyst, like, why is it taking so long? I asked ChatGPT and it gave me in 2 seconds, It's a bit misleading as well. Which I think is a challenge, is a quote unquote problem of the data science world. I think it's a now. And why am I saying problem? Because another thing that I read is that an article that claims that data scientists work alone, and that's bad. So maybe, do you agree with this statement, Bart, that data scientists work alone in general? I know it's a bit of a blanket statement.
I've seen it happen a lot, yeah.
Yeah. And do you agree that it's bad?
I agree that it's bad. Yeah.
So, in this article, the author here, the name escapes me right now. He goes through an anecdote that he thought he was pretty good at English, but that's just because he didn't get a lot of feedback on it. And then he went to the sophomore year of maybe high school, and then he got a lot of notes, and then he kept working on it, and he got better. And there were less notes, right? Not so surprisingly. And he says that in data science, it's similar. A lot of times these projects, there's one person, one data scientist that kind of does everything, the exploration, the modeling, and all these things. And when he started working, he was the only data scientist of this company. And then he actually was they hired a boss or someone to look over his work. And then it was kind of similar to his experience in English class, that he would submit a pull request, and then he would come back with a lot of comments.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get better, you address the comments, and then gradually, slowly but surely, you get less and less. So you get better at it. Not surprising. Nothing like, even he says like nothing, yeah, crazy, right? Mind blown. Everything is pretty much. And you start learning more about like config files, start learning about like patterns, you start learning about encapsulation, about abstractions, and all these things. He compares data science with software engineering. He says software engineering is a team sport. And I think it's more because usually a software engineer usually adds a feature to something that kind of exists, whereas data scientists, they kind of build a use case from scratch.
Yeah.
It's also easier to add something and to look around the code or around Drew, or even ask questions. So it's much easier to learn. The learning curve for software engineering is steeper, let's say. That's kind of it, high level. And he finishes off by saying that the analytics world has analytics engineering. So now with DBT, right, he says that people tend to review more the code, and he said data analyst was also more of a solo job. Like people were like doing the queries and replying and doing these things, and now you have DBT, so people are reviewing code, etc. And then here's to hoping we soon have data science engineering. What do you think of that comparison and that statement?
I think if you look at software engineering, to make that parallel, like what you typically have, you have like a product, and features get assigned to people, but you're together working on this product.
Yeah.
There's a foundation, like what is expected, like what is the best practices of this product, and you have a bit of a frame of reference, and you're very close to the other person because they're also building a feature towards this product.
Yeah.
I think what we see in data science typically is that, and it's becoming better and better, but definitely if we look 3-4 years back, is that the things that get assigned to data scientists is not a small feature, but it's like a use case. Let's test out this use case. And while at the same time, there is very limited maturity in the underlying framework. Like there's very limited maturity in the platforms that they're working on. Like what is the best practices? What do we do for experiment tracking? How do we do CI/CD? So there is this. It's at a much earlier stage, I have the feeling, than software engineering is today.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a bit. I think from working on it hands-on on this case is a bit hard with multiple people because it is very much a specific use case. But what I do think is, and I'll leave that a bit in the middle, whether or not for a small use case you should be able to work on it with multiple data science. But what I do think is always bad is if there is not someone involved from business to say, like, what is it that we're actually building? Because that's something that you also see a lot. Yeah, okay, let's just try this out. We really believe in it, and then we can convince the business to use it. I think that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And also to do this really in isolation of the more established IT/software team that there already is. To say, yeah, what we do is really experimental. It's really something new. It's state of the art. So we need a bit of freedom. Sure, you need a bit of freedom, but like we also need like some decent software engineering practices. And what it makes me think about a little bit is I think that's where we're going, is a bit the data mullet concept.
Data mullet?
Yeah, are you familiar with this?
Not sure I
am. So data mullet is a bit of an extension of the data mesh.
Mm.
And I'm not the best at explaining this, but like a mullet, you know what a mullet is, right? Like a hairdress.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, but I was like, I'm not
Like
sure.
a mullet, like business in the front, party in the back.
Okay,
Right?
yes, I know.
And that is like a bit of a frame to like a bit of a next step on the data mesh to also make sure that how do you operationalize these more AI type of processes into a company, not just have the whole data infrastructure in place in the right way, but also like say you only do cases, you only build something if there is ownership from the business. Like you can't say we don't care about data quality. That's for the IT. No,
It's not like
you need to own
disconnected.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Prove that you can do something with this data, that you can't say that as the business department. Like you say, let's build this use case together. So you need to have someone involved. Like you don't do it if you're not someone involved from business. To more, and I think this type of evolution that we see going on with these type of skills, these type of technologies maturing, will also mean that like people working as a data scientist will work less in isolation.
Yeah,
because they will be close to the business. They will be close to a software engineering team.
But I do maybe also I did some quick googling here. Data mullet. This is the architecture. It's a bit convoluted. Not sure if it adds any clarity here.
I'm not sure if this
Maybe we need to link some something that data
we'll
mullet
link
for
it in
people
the,
that are
in the show notes.
interested.
Yeah.
And you mentioned working in isolation, and I agree. I also agree with there are some use cases that people start working on, and then when they deliver it, they're like, yeah, but no one is asking about this. No one cares about
Well,
this.
exactly. That's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I also feel like is a bit of a tangent. I think is a bit interesting because I have the feeling that we as people, when doing work, we feel like we need to do something always.
Mhm.
And then I think that's a bit of a consequence of that. You know, like we have a data science team, we have 4 people, and it's like, oh yeah, no, we need to have a whole use case. So let's just work on this and let's spend 4 months working on this. But no one is asking, you know. And I think this is something that I think on my role as well, that you can be busy but not bring anything, right? Like just because you're busy doesn't mean you're making progress.
I think we also come, when we talk about AI, very much from a bit of an R&D type of setting. Like we're very interested in this problem. Okay, there is this new type of methodology to solve this. Okay, let's find some data. Okay, maybe we can predict this.
Yeah.
And then try to match that to an actual business case.
Yeah, indeed.
Which is also very atypical for software engineering. Like software engineering is like let's create a button here. Why? It's not because we want it, like because we need it, right?
Yeah. Like, but also even from the business, sometimes I hear like, oh yeah, we need to use AI. Where? I don't care, but we need to say we're doing AI. It's also a bit like backwards sometimes.
That's the hype.
Indeed, right?
Indeed.
So,
yeah.
But there's so many things that play. But also what I want
and I think it's a fair one, to be honest. Like I think it's fair to say, okay, we need to invest in AI. We need to understand like how it improves our competitive advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
But just saying like just do something is not a smart way to go about it.
I agree.
You need to strategize a bit, like how are we going to make sure that what we're going to test is actually going to create business value.
Exactly. What does business value look like to us? Right? Does it mean more visibility? Does it mean marketing? Does it mean more customers? I also think there should be some work like to think about what
exactly. But to me,
agree.
that is part of defining a good project.
I fully agree. But to go back, so you did mention data scientists will probably work not alone, which I agree, but still not technical persons, right? It's not like they're working alongside other data scientists or engineers or something, right? They're still just a business person.
I don't. Yeah, well, I think you need the business side to this, but I think also like what we see happening around us in small tech startups, also large enterprises, that companies are becoming more mature in this, and that the default is no longer like there is a separate data science team that works in isolation on individual use cases, but that is already a bit more like this is part of our technical capabilities, and we need to make sure that we have the right skills at the right moment.
Yeah,
and I think that's where we're going.
I think also, I guess for me, when I read this as well, like it's bad and you're working alone, I was also thinking of the whole conundrum of data scientists, quote unquote, don't know how to code.
Yeah.
And I think, and again, if you work in isolation, like the other tricky thing about data science is that you don't necessarily want to uphold the highest standards throughout the whole life cycle of a use case, right? If you're in the beginning, you're exploring, you don't even know if there is enough data. You don't know if the models can actually learn these things. You don't want to spend time with linting necessarily, right? So I feel like you should be strict at some point, but not always. And I think in software, the value is pretty much guaranteed. You invest 4 days building this button, and then this button is going to bring this much value. It's like it's there. And in data science, you can spend 3 months. I mean, if you really want to, you can spend 2 years, and then you go back. It's like, yeah, the model's not doing that great. Like that is possible as well.
That is possible, yeah.
Which I think it makes it.
That is the major difference with software engineering to me. Like with software engineering, when you plan for something, you typically know this is feasible or not.
Exactly.
With AI, data science, whatever you want to call it, machine learning, you plan for something, and your very first phase is, let's see if this is feasible or not.
Indeed, and a lot of the times, like even if it's not feasible, like even like you train a model, it's not good enough, or like it's not as good as you thought with the metrics and whatnot. There's always a thing of, oh, maybe I can try some other things, and maybe it would be good enough.
Yeah, and I think there as well as a team, you need a strategy around it.
Completely
and
agree.
Don't leave that up to the individual.
Completely
Because
agree.
some people will say, okay, I'm gonna try this. I have a poor performance of let's give a percentage, 70% of 100. I'm gonna try version 2. It's gonna be 72%. I'm gonna try version 4. Gonna be 74%.
Yeah.
And some individuals say, yeah, I'm not gonna get much better than this. And some individuals will say, let's build on this for the next year, because I still see incremental movement. And I think you need a bit of a strategy on it.
And I think also the business on the other side is like, you've been working on this for 2 years now. How good are you? And then they're gonna be like, whoa, that's it. Like I would expect more, which I also think creates a bit of friction. But yeah, but at the same time, so on the data scientist working alone, I do feel like there is all those challenges, right? Like the AI is a bit different from software. Also, like you should know when to uphold the standards. But I also wonder if you can actually have a truly collaborative experience for data science use cases. Like if you're doing exploration, it's not like you can say, oh, you explore the data from this country, I explore from this country, and then we come together. I feel like the nature of the job, it is a bit more isolated in a way. And I feel like there's a lot of context. Like even if I do the tooling doesn't help either. Like Jupyter Notebooks, I don't think is the best thing for review collaboration because of the metadata.
True.
And I think it's like I can do an exploration, like ADA, right? Like the exploratory data analysis thing. And I can give it to you to review. But then there's also a lot of context switching to you, right? Which is also very challenging. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, which I think makes data science challenging. And I think it would be nice to see a data science engineering like the author mentions here. But I also feel like it's very difficult. I'm not sure if it's something feasible, really.
Let's see where we're at a few years from now.
Let's see. And one of the things that data science do, Bart, is like graph analysis. You like that segue?
I like the segue. Yeah.
Graph is tricky because it's very compute intensive, right? A lot of the times you have to really compare all the data points. A lot of times you have to combine all the edges and all these things. All in all, without making too big of a deal about this, it's very tricky to computationally have something that scales. Databases, there are specific databases for graphs, like graph databases, like Neo4j. But all in all, it's a tricky thing. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because recently I learned about a new library, I guess.
It's library time.
It's library time. Do we have a soundbite for that or not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
You can now say something and then we can reuse.
Oh, I'll say it. Maybe you should say it. Or we can say it together.
A library a week keeps the mind
at
peak.
There we go.
I'm not sure if that was really a sound snippet worthy, but
I don't think so. But we try. If anything, we're agile. So what is this about? This is a Rust Work X. This is a graph library.
Okay. What does a graph library do?
Well, different things. But for example, you can plot. So basically, like usually the way you describe a graph is through the edges.
Yeah.
So for example, you can just to be very concrete here, you can think of your Facebook friends, right? In that case, it'll be not directed, right? Because if I'm friends with you, Bart, you're friends with me as well.
What are edges?
So edges, so like if you have okay, imagine Facebook, me and you are friends. Are we friends on Facebook? Maybe not. We'll change that.
Not a Facebook user.
Oh no, okay. If we're both friends, that means that I'll be how do you say it? Like actually, the edge would be the friendship. So the connection between 2 points.
So if you visualize a graph with dots, right? Dots are typically called nodes.
Nodes, that's the word I was forgetting.
And the nodes in Facebook are people.
Yes.
And the connections are represented with the lines between the nodes, which are called edges.
Exactly. So if you and me are friends, you are dot B for Bart, and I'm dot A because I'm first. And then there's a line between us. That would be very simple. And also, this is undirected. But for example, if you're talking about payments, right? If I give you money, then there is a direction to it, right? So it gets a bit more complicated. And usually, when you're describing these graphs, you just have a whole bunch of edges. So it says Murilo Bart, that's one. Murilo Alex, that's another. Alex Bart, that's another one, right? And then you just kind of have like basically a long list of 2 points, point A, point B, whatever. And then from that, you can build a graph. Right. And then from that graph, you can do a lot of different things. So for example, you can see, well, one metric is like, well, how many triangles you have on your network, for example. So if you, me, and Alex were friends, then this would be a triangle. Right. And then basically the amount of triangles represents how connected your graph is. Right. Another thing that you can do, if you have you want to cluster the Facebook people into different profiles, you can say, if I cut a few edges, how many edges do I need to cut to make these 2 completely separate graphs, right? And then you can kind of see, okay, maybe this group is someone that is really into sports, this group is someone that's really into art, whatever, right? Like there are a lot of different use cases, but doing these things is actually very compute intensive, right? So also,
and that's where these type of libraries come in.
Exactly. Right. So traditionally in Python, there is one called NetworkX.
Yeah, which is very well known.
I think it's the standard, I would say, for Python. No, for stuff in general. But there are other ones called iGraph or Graph2. Graph2 I never used. The iGraph, I think it's in C++, I want to say. And actually, this is a new one written in Rust. You like that part?
RustWorks. RustWorkX.
Yes, I think it's a play word in NetworkX.
And you've put a benchmark here on the screen where it benchmarks RustWorkX with others, where it is basically the fastest of them all, and NetworkX is the slowest, right?
Yeah.
And RustWorkX, can you use it from Python?
Yes, that's what I was looking here. Actually, I think it is. So you see here, graph classes, it's PyGraph and all the things, but maybe it's easier even to look at the GitHub page. But yeah, I looked here briefly, and indeed there is like a Python API. So it is pretty much like Polars, like a lot of other libraries that actually it's written in Rust, but then it's bound into Python. So you can actually interact this on the Python layer. So very cool. The reason why I actually came across this, so it wasn't me that came across this, but it was put on our internal Slack channel, that DBT actually uses NetworkX. So DBT is like you have the different queries and how the tables map out, right? And they were suggesting using RustWorkX instead of NetworkX for these things. So haven't checked it out, but I do know that this is I have had my pains with graph stuff, like submit a job and then just wait hours for it to finish running. So curious to see how this would work out.
And then the main premise here is it's faster on Rust.
Yeah. Which I do think, actually, I think it's a good use case for Rust.
Yeah. This is really about, well, if we look about the computational part of this, is really about speed.
Yeah, but I think there's also the memory thing, right? Like, if you're loading everything to do the computations and all these things, something that is a bit more memory efficient also plays there's a benefit there, right? So, haven't tried it, but very cool. You know, another thing that data scientists usually care for. Data. And then that's where Dolt comes in, I guess. Git for data.
Dolt is Git for data. Yeah, something I came across a week or two ago. It's been around for a while, apparently. There's quite a bit of stars, 17,000 stars.
Is that a lot? How many stars does Chic have?
Not that much. And Dolt is Git for data, and what they try to do, more or less, is that every change to your database gets sort of a like a commit hash.
Ah,
So that also means that you can revert changes, and that is also very transparent, like what caused this change. And that also means basically that you can traverse back in time. And how they, and I didn't try it myself, but how they basically did it is to they built on top of a database. I think it's MySQL and MariaDB compatible. And what they basically do is they add a lot of metadata to that. So I think you can actually connect to it with any MySQL or MariaDB connector. But they have more information than you would find in MySQL. So what you will have is that, for example, if you would query all the rows in a table, you would see extra columns to these rows that said, I'm not sure how exactly they call it, but I think it says something like, what was the commit to that row? What was the message? These type of things. And it really gives you, it really allows you to think about your database like you would do about your Git repository.
Interesting. Here. So I think is this a good example, Bart? You literally have for people following the live stream here, there's in the documentation, so in the README, there's a select star from dot log. So it's a different table for this.
Yeah, but that already gives more information. So what you would have is that let's say if you do a select star from employees, there's like an example there like that, where you have to get your employees table, you have your last day, your first name, these type of things. But what you also get is like you have a column called from commit date, the diff type, like was the added, was the updated. So you get all of this added to it, but from the commit ID, you can get more information about the commit from another table. So you actually have a commit message and stuff like this.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I'm not sure how, like I said, never tested. Don't know how it scales. Like if it's.
But I guess everything is like insert only. I guess.
What do you mean it's insert only?
Like yeah.
I think you can also do updates
on the tables
and deletion. Yeah.
But then how do you keep the history? Because you need to have all the Git hashes, no?
Well, I think that it does the updates. Like you mean, how can you revert?
Yeah.
To the original data.
Yeah.
Good question.
Because my thinking is like if everything is insert, then you always just putting stuff there, and you have the Git hash and you have the Git history, so you can always trace back what's the status here and there.
And if you would want to revert a delete, you need to save that data somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I would
either
imagine.
They do it or they don't support it. It's a good question. I don't know. But they do allow for the modification type. So like you've added but also modified, and so
it's very interesting.
I would assume that is also revertible, but I don't know how they implement it.
Yeah, I've seen. So this is a way of versioning your data, right? I've seen other ways of like I guess very simple. If you have a database, is just adding a timestamp. So here I think is actually nice because you do have a timestamp, but you have something more rich, which is a commit hash. So you also link it with a Git history, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how this feels like something could be very nicely integrated with DBT, because DBT is already on Git, right? And every transformation you do, and then it would be very easy to say, okay, this row was created by this Git, by this version of my DBT project. Right? Because I think today DBT you have the timestamps and whatnot. But if I want to see, okay, this row was created by this version of my Git repo, I kind of have to match my timestamps with my DBT timestamps, I guess.
I don't think you get that out of this naturally, because like the commit hashes that you get in Dolt are really like they're scoped to Dolt.
It's like a different thing.
Yeah, it's like a different thing. Like you would have to add extra metadata to these rows to do this.
There's an idea there for the people at DBT then. Link the Git
Dolt
hashes.
plugin.
Yeah. Another thing that I've seen for data versioning, and what I'm familiar with data versioning, there's a DVC, data version control. So actually I put that on the notes here, but it's actually very different now that you explain it. What is DVC? DVC is also for data versioning, but I think it shines more when you have unstructured data. DVC is way more tied to. Are you familiar with DVC, Bart?
If I use it, but it's been a while.
Yeah, DVC is very tied to Git actually. So like all the files that are DVC tracked actually don't go on. They go into like Git ignore these things, so they don't go in your Git repo. But there is like a file with basically just a hash, so basically like an identifier. And then whenever you do, so the commands are very similar to Git. They really mimic Git for these things. So when you do Git push, you can do DVC push, you can do DVC pull, and basically when you do DVC pull, they will look at the ID file, the ID proxy file from like that would reference a version of your data set, and then you pull every stuff in. So
but that's basically meant for data on your file system, whether it's a physical or a virtual, like S3 or something. But it's like, it's not like this data in this structured Postgres database.
So it's really just like so I mean, you could bridge that by saying you have Parquet files locally, right? But I think it shines more when you talk about images or all these other things, right? I think then it's really, really, really good. The downsides of DVC is if you cannot have even one version of your data set in your laptop, then it goes a bit downhill from there, in my opinion. But it's a very, very, very cool tool. I think it's been there for a long time. And the other thing too, that now the company called Iterative, they also expand this a bit, right? So if you think of machine learning models, if you say that they're like pickle files or whatever, it's a file as well. So you can also version machine learning models with this. So they have like other tools. They have DVC Studio, DVC.
And I'm looking here at you just had the GitHub page on.
Yes.
They have less stars than Dolt. Well, I think almost everybody in the data/AI space has at some point heard of DVC.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's crazy. Maybe there's a space that I'm not part of where Dolt is very big.
Maybe.
Interesting.
Indeed. And also DVC, they're part of Iterative, I want to say, but even though I cannot find it. But like I said, so they also have like a version of model registry, experiment tracking. They even have like pipelines and stuff, but everything is very tied to Git and everything is very tightly integrated. So they're good use cases for it. But yeah, it's true, huh? They have less stars than your adult thing. So curious. And while we're still in the tech corner, maybe Vio?
Yes, Vio was...
what is it, Bayard?
Was announced at Google I/O earlier this week. One of the cooler things in my mind to come out of it. So Google I/O happened like just the day after OpenAI's announcements of GPT-4o.
Really?
And it's interesting to I think OpenAI scheduled it on purpose. Huh?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see a bit like different style as well. Where with OpenAI, when they announce something, it's more or less always like a cohesive product. Like this is ready to be used.
Yeah.
And like with Google I/O, it's always like there are a huge amount of projects and they're all very cool. But it feels like a huge amount of engineers sitting together for a year and just having like a hackathon. And like tons of cool stuff came out, but like what of that is like actually a cohesive product?
Yeah, what would you...
And what will not be X'd a year from now? That's always a bit like the feeling that I have with Google I/O.
built this reputation as well of Xing a lot of stuff, no?
Yeah. But Vio that you have on the screen now, Vio, right?
Yeah.
Is it Vio?
Vio, I think, with the E.
Is it with an E? Okay. Vio, they call it their most capable video model, generative video model, and it's a 1080p video model. I wanted to try it out. You can sign up to try, but it's not available in Belgium.
Really?
So I assume not available in Europe. Maybe only available in the US. But when you go to the page, which we'll link, you see very impressive videos.
Yeah.
But like very impressive. Like all of them are more or less, how would I say it? Like they are a bit of a landscape-ish, like a bit of abstract, but realistic. But it doesn't show like, for example, I'm walking through a city and you see tons of people where you would expect more artifacts.
Yeah.
But all of the ones that they show look super, super impressive.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to see how well does it perform with like a noisy environment.
You know, for me, I mean, I agree. It looks very nice.
It's very nice. Yeah.
This is also, we're showing the video here, like it's a wheel of snippets, I guess.
Hmm.
And if you go down, they have some more, I don't know if longer examples, but they have like the prompts as well. So a lone cowboy rides his horse across an open plain at beautiful sunset, soft light, warm colors. And so you go. The thing for me is, and I do notice now that I have a bias, because with Gemini,
Mhm.
they released a very impressive demo, and then there's a lot of kerfuffle that the demo wasn't. You know, it was highly edited, and I'm also wondering here. Okay, these things are very short, right? I'm wondering if this how much quote unquote makeup it has. You know, to make this looks very like. Did they try a million things and now they just kind of put the top five, which
Mm.
means, you know. The other thing too is that it always feels to me that they're a few steps behind the OpenAI. Like Sora was released and it was like, whoa. And I feel like now we're going through this again, but it's not the same whoa because it's the second time.
Yeah, I agree. At the same time, what they're showing here, like the short snippets,
Yeah, the short snippets.
they look very impressive. I think even next to Sora, they're still impressive.
No, that I agree. That I agree.
But I have
actually.
the same feeling. Like I would like to try this out and see how wow it actually is.
Yeah, that's the thing. After the Gemini demo, it's really like, whew, you know,
Yeah.
the Gemini demo looked amazing, and then afterwards, I was like, yeah, no, this is. It was not like that at all. Because even I think on the Sora announcement, they also had a few examples of things that didn't work so well or a few clunky things, you know.
Hmm.
And here I don't see anything at all. Like I'm really trying to, for example.
Indeed, the Sora documentation on the website was also very honest. Like this is where it's not good at. These are artifacts that get generated, which felt a bit more transparent. Maybe transparency is a difficult word to use in the context of OpenAI, but it felt a bit more transparent about how performant the model actually is.
It feels, I mean, to me, maybe transparent is not the word, but maybe believable in my opinion. You know, it's like because you're highlighting a bit the downsides, let's say, I do feel more inclined to trust. Maybe just to compare here, this is the Sora video that we saw a little while ago. And they had some examples at the bottom, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, putting them next to each other, I think here. Not sure where was it. Here. Yeah, they had some funny stuff. Like the guy running the treadmill or the puppies that just appear. Yeah, I see. So in any like Agria, they're both very impressive, but I think I would wait a bit before losing all my marbles again around this.
Let's see.
Let's see, indeed. Should we go for the hot topics? Hot topics.
Maybe before that, a last thing, OpenAI in the news, I think yesterday, where it was announced that Ilya Sutskever resigned together with another, which I forgot the name of, with Jan Leike, who ran the super alignment team. Sutskever is a bit has been named the brains of OpenAI at some point, I think.
Ilya,
yeah. There's also he's been very much involved in all the hassle with Altman being fired and then coming back on board, stuff like that.
Hustle in which sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was supporting Altman, or?
Well, what I understood is that at the beginning, Sutskever was instrumental in getting Altman fired, actually.
Ah, really?
Yeah. But I think all the information that came out of it is still very much hush-hush. So I don't know what exactly happened. But the reality is that 6 months later, we have Ilya resigning. And wondering to see what the impact will be on the ability to innovate, if any. Right.
If it will hinder the ability to innovate. Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. So right now it's just kind of like just caught our attention, but there's no necessarily confirmation that this is a crisis within OpenAI. It's just we don't know exactly why he left.
It's not a crisis. We don't know exactly. I think his statement was that he's going to work on another project that he has a big personal connection to, something like in paraphrasing a bit here. But let's see if it becomes a crisis, because he is, of course, one of the figureheads of OpenAI.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see. And with that, are we ready for some hot takes?
Oh, hot, 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 hot.
Nice. I brought a hot take. This is not my hot take. I mean, let's see how hot it is actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe we should
I
have
don't know what you brought.
maybe we should have like a spiciness scale. Like how hot is it, and then you can
Okay.
you can see like, oh, I think this is a hot take. Everybody's like, oh yeah. Last time actually was like that. I was like, oh yeah, but it's obvious.
How many out of 5 peppers?
How many out of 5 peppers? No, but they're
Yeah.
like different spiciness of peppers. No, isn't it
Oh
like that?
yeah. What's it called again?
Yeah.
The
Something bell.
like the thousand
Yeah.
and the millions. Scoville.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Isn't it
Yeah.
Scoville, huh? Yeah.
Scoville. That's the spiciest one.
No, it's like the measure of
The
units.
measure of
Yeah,
spiciness.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come up with something.
Scoville scale.
But so what is this about? This is an article that I came across. It's about data engineering, more specifically, data engineering roadmaps. So first thing, the big claim here is that there is no data engineering roadmap. The author, apparently he was a bit frustrated. Not maybe frustrated is not the right word, even though he does have a rant here at the bottom. Where is it? Quick rant with peppers here. So I guess it is hot.
Okay.
He was tired of seeing the roadmap to data engineering. First, you need to learn this, then you need to learn that, then you need to learn
Oh,
this,
okay,
then
like
you need to
that.
learn
Okay, yeah.
I
like
think-
what is the roadmap to become a data engineer?
to
That's what
become
you're
a data
talking-
engineer.
Okay.
But what was your understanding before I said this?
I thought a roadmap within a company on
Ah,
how
no,
do
no,
we
no,
do
no,
data
no.
engineering.
No. It's like for someone like you want to be a data engineer.
Okay.
What should you learn? And then he was saying this like, okay, first you need to learn this, then you need to learn that, then you need to do
Okay.
this, then Kubernetes, then this. And he was a bit like, no. And he also goes even as far as saying that a lot of people that do these things, they have ulterior motives because they have like these courses and they try to get people to subscribe to it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe do you believe in these roadmaps, or do you think it's like you just need one or two things and then you're done? So just to be fair as well, like in this article, he does say that you need a foundation. Like it's not like he's saying that you don't have any requirements. There are requirements, and we'll get to his main requirement or only requirement actually. But he said it's different to say these are foundational skills and these are additional skills than to say this is a roadmap that you need to learn the A, B, and then C, and then D, and then E. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
You agree?
What he's saying. Yeah. I think to me, that's the danger of stepping on some toes here.
But that's why we have this hot take.
To me, data engineering is similar to software engineering, but with a focus on data.
Yeah.
And that said, like if you studied software engineering, you're ready to start your career as a junior data engineer.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. And like all these data specific things you will learn along the line.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with that. He even said, like you said, I have seen some say data engineering is not an entry level role, and this is nothing more than toxic gatekeeping. It's a very strong language here. But I agree as well, like you said, junior data engineers. He said that he's heard people say that there's no such thing as a junior data engineer. He even compares as well to software engineering, that before people used to say software engineering is not an entry level role, but now people don't say this anymore because they know this is rubbish. Total rubbish, according to him. And he says everyone is welcoming data. So that's one thing. Not sure how hot it is. I tend to agree as well. This is a bonus hot take from reading the article. All you need is SQL.
Yeah, that touches a bit on another topic, of course.
Yes, so it's a bonus hot take here.
Well, I don't think all you need is SQL, but SQL is becoming the 80% again.
Yes.
SQL, SQL. In terms of trends, so what did you see? Is like if we look at 10 years back, everything is in SQL.
Yep.
Right. Talk directly to databases. At some moment in time, like larger data sets, big data sets became a thing. These traditional databases could really handle the aggregates, like the analytics type of queries that we launched via SQL. So we got other things to handle these analytical workloads, like Hadoop clusters, like these type of things. And the way to build data or to build analytical queries on top of this, to build analytical products on top of this, was very much software engineering. Like it was in Python, it was in Scala, or it was in whatever. And now we see a bit of a shift back where there are very good analytical databases where you can go very, very, very far with just SQL.
Yeah.
So SQL is becoming way, way, way more important again.
Yeah. I think also with DBT, right? Like it's a bit SQL plus, let's say. We can do a lot with SQL, but like even DBT, right? Like a lot of these DBT also have Python models, right? Which you can like kind of blend in a bit. So I agree with what you're saying, yeah, but that's not what he's saying. Well, one thing also he says is when people are learning as well, and he says at some point here, that's like just pick any SQL. SQL has different dialects, it's not very standardized, but just pick one, it's fine. Don't worry about which one. Yeah, like he says NC SQL, which is not really standard. Just pick one. If you really need to pick one and you're really stuck, just go for Postgres. So I think he'll put a smile on your face, Bart.
Yeah, I think this calls for an applause.
So now you know. If anyone wants an applause in the Datatopics podcast, just say Postgres and Bart will.
I think the description is wrong. It says it's the world's favorite free open source database. I think you should say it's the world's most robust favorite free open source database.
But this you agree, you can't go wrong with starting with Postgres.
And I agree.
That I agree.
In most cases.
And then he says that, yeah, there's some differences. And then if you want to change the database, you can. MariaDB, Google's BigQuery, blah, blah, blah. That I all agree. If you already know SQL, then like, yeah, you're in a good position. But then he goes, what's next? What about Python, Pandas, DBT, Rust, Airflow, Spark? Later, all these things you can learn on the job if the job even needs them. That I'm not sure if I fully... I mean, you can say that about even SQL, huh?
But I think that is a bit like, what kind of job are you aspiring to as a data engineer? Because I think a data engineer, because you see these evolutions, like depending on where you're going to work as a data engineer, it can look very different.
That's
where
true.
You still do a lot, for example, on daily basis with PySpark, or you don't do anything at all anymore. All the foundation is set up, CSD is set up for you by another team, and you just write SQL. Like you have these two extremes. So I think in 2024, it still makes sense to have a good understanding of more these software engineering type of principles and language understandings. And if you need to choose a language today as a software engineer, it's Python. But I think also there, like we've seen this evolutions at universities as well. So someone that studied software engineering would have seen Python, would have used Python, and is perfectly suitable to start as a junior data engineer with his Python skills.
Yeah, no, but I agree with that. I do think it's like, if you're a data engineer and you don't know SQL, then I would raise an eyebrow.
Mm.
And if you're not good at Python, so you know some, I think it's fine. I do expect you to know the basics of Python. Like if you saw Python code, you would kind of, oh yeah, that's Python code. I can kind of really understand that. I would expect a junior data engineer to know.
Oh.
But I agree with that.
I would, at the risk of stating another hot take, someone starting as a junior data engineer, if this person really shows like has a strong foundation in Python but doesn't know any SQL skills, I would have more trust in that person than someone that shows a lot of SQL but hasn't touched any other language yet.
Can we press the hot again?
Hot.
No, I agree with you, but I think we discussed this in the past, that I feel like Python it's a general purpose programming. I feel like it's a bit more.
I think SQL, it's easier to get in touch with SQL via a lot of different fields
Yes.
because it's a bit the primary analytical language.
Yeah.
Python or another language, you only get acquainted with if you do a bit more low-level stuff. And I think it's an indicator that you know a little bit more about software engineering practices.
Yeah.
If you're
No,
good
I
at one
agree.
of these languages.
I think it's like easier to go from Python to SQL
Yeah.
than SQL to Python.
Yeah.
In the same way that I think, and maybe this is another hot take as well, I think it's easier to go from data engineer to data science than data science to data engineer. Actually, I don't think that's a hot topic, but hot take. But I
Wait, tell me again.
I think it's easier to go from data engineering to data science than data science to data engineering.
Whew. I think a lot of people will. We're gonna leave this as a hot take for the next time.
Okay. Maybe to wrap up this, like I think it alludes to what you mentioned before. On the article, they say SQL is the only skill that every single data engineer uses every single day. No other skill or tool can claim the same. Python is cool. Some folks are using Scala. Snowflake is popular, but there's more data teams not using those tools than those who are, but not for SQL. I'm not sure if I agree with there's more data teams not using those tools than those who are, but
I think that's that paints a picture on like what is the environment that this person has been in.
yeah, indeed.
I also don't think this is very much a blanket statement. I don't believe in this.
I do feel like, so again, maybe a roadmap is a very strong word, and I think a lot of these roadmaps are very detailed to like Kubernetes and this and this and that, like even technologies, like not very general purpose things. But if I'm at a university and someone says, "Oh, I want to be a data engineer," and I still have like 2 years to go in my studies, what would you recommend me doing? I would say, well, SQL for sure, and I think Python. I would tell them like, if you know Python and SQL, you're in a very good place.
Yeah.
So that's, again, I would go a bit further. I wouldn't say SQL is all you need. I mean, yeah, it's all you need, but that's not what I would advise you to go.
But what this person also a bit reacting to is all these people selling their courses, but I must say that irks me a bit as well. But I don't think that's specific to this field. Like if you open YouTube, the first ad you get like, I have been successful in this field for 10 years and now financially independent, and I'm here to give you advice. If only you pay me $2,000, then I'll give you some insights.
You don't need a college degree, just pay me 2,000 and you get your dream job,
So yeah.
And so this is the quick rant at the bottom here. He says a lot of bad advice. He says that some people are just innocently sharing their opinion, but there's a lot of people that are really trying to get some money out of it, right? So
believe in yourself.
Sure. And I feel like sometimes we as people, we're really trying to find the optimal way. Like you're trying to optimize your efforts, but I really feel like sometimes you just gotta do it. Like I think we talked about this in the past, but like for me, even like exercise, right? It's like I go work out, I go for a run, whatever. It doesn't need to be the best run, but just go every day. It's fine. Even if you have a bad day, it's better to have 5 bad days than have 1 good day.
This became meta very quickly.
Yeah, indeed. I like that.
But I agree. Like even if you're not 100% sure, just try it out. If it doesn't work, try something else. Try to improve.
Exactly. To see what sticks,
That's what we try every week at Datatopics.
And with that, I think we can wrap this up. Anything else you want to say?
Thanks everybody for listening.
Maybe next. So we're recording on a Friday because I'm going on holidays next week. Monday's as a holiday as well as a bank holiday in Belgium. You have any special plans?
Not really. But you have special plans.
I have. Talk about my plan. I'll be in Portugal.
Yeah.
I have some errands to run there, but also I'm gonna do some tourism. And towards the very end of the trip, I'm gonna have a very important appointment.
Which is the main objective of the trip, right?
Don't know if I would say that, but yes, I am gonna be attending a Taylor Swift concert. So proudly, I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie.
But I've understood that you can sing along with every song.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Not every song, maybe, but like.
How did this get into your life?
I mean, but so first thing is like Taylor Swift has been prolific, for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I even remember
But what was the first, like, if you go back in your life, like, what was the moment that you became a Swiftie?
I wouldn't say I'm a Swiftie, but I do remember. So like, yeah, it's fine. I'm proud of it still. I remember in Brazil. I was still in Brazil. I was learning English, right? And I remember we had this like after lunch. So I'll come back home, eat lunch, and there was like this thing. There was only video clips of the popular songs, and they put subtitles in Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching Taylor Swift's what's the name of the Love Story? So and then like I remember like the whole story and this and really, so I was like, oh, that's what she's saying. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's.
And you
that.
thought like, this is
It's
deep.
like,
This is meaning.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, wow, what a poet.
And that was the defining moment.
No, that
that moment led to you going to Portugal next week.
I feel like if it's a bit dangerous because I feel like I would usually play along with the joke, but I think a lot of people are not going to understand that this is a joke. So I'll just nip it in the bud right now and just say, no, I wouldn't consider myself a Swiftie, but I feel like I do know a lot of songs. I do feel like it actually helped me learn English a lot.
Okay.
So
would you consider yourself a closeted Swiftie?
Yes.
Let's maybe on that note.
And Paramore is actually opening. You know Paramore? Bart doesn't know Paramore. Alex knows Paramore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't know Paramore? It's also something that I grew up listening. So it's gonna be something. Well, I grew up listening. Maybe Alex. Maybe. And maybe Alex as well. What do you have any big plans for the?
Yeah, I'm also going on holiday.
Oh, any special things? Anything you want to share?
I'm going to Spain.
Nice.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
You will all be enjoying a lot of good weather.
Yeah.
I'll be here in Belgium in the rain.
Yeah. I'll think of you. Maybe.
Enjoy Portugal. Enjoy Taylor Swift. Alex, enjoy Spain.
Thank you.
All right.
To
Thanks,
everybody
everyone.
else, I'll see you next week.
Ciao.
Ciao.
You have taste in a way that's meaningful to software people.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates.
I would recommend TypeScript. Yeah, it writes a lot of code for me, and usually it's slightly wrong.
I'm reminded, incidentally, of Rust.
This almost makes me happy that I didn't become a supermodel.
Cooper and Negs.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about large neural networks. It's really an honor to be here.
Rust. Data topics.
Welcome to the Data.
Welcome to the Data Topics podcast.